welcome to this week's episode of TRUUU Podcast. I'm your host, Alex.
And I'm your host, Drea.
And today we're going to do another movie review, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's one that I suggested that Drea watch. It's 10 Things I Hate About You. So if you haven't seen the movie, major spoilers ahead. So, just you're warned now. But the week we'll get into our normal thing of updating on the past week and how it's been and whatever. So, Drea, how has your week been?
My week is okay. I feel like this was more of a kind of like uneventful week for me. For the most part, I didn't do too much. I did, however, did we mention it in our last podcast how we decided on my birthday theme, or did we not mention that?
We did mention it, yes.
Okay, so I have continued to search for my full-on ensemble, and I feel like I've come now to a point where I feel like it's completed. Mm-hmm. Like the items have come in. I bought like flare pants, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
And I bought high-waisted flare pants because like your girl ain't ready for the low-waisted.
Yeah.
And so I tried them on, and like they're really cute, don't get me wrong, but like Aaron straight up just laughed when I put them on. Like he was just like, that's outrageous. And I was like, do they look good? And he was like, I guess. And I was like, geez. So that's ridiculous. Also, like the shirt that I got, I ordered a large, okay? Which I don't usually order larges. Like I order a large and I'm like, I want it to be loose fitting. Like usually I wear medium. And so I ordered a large because I was just like, well, like it's kind of a cropped shirt. I don't want it to be like clinging to me. It comes in and let me tell you, it is skin tight. Like it is like max capacity. Outrageous. Like
amazing.
Whatever. But it works. And then I also was just like, well, like what if I get cold? What should I do about that? So I bought one of those. I don't know if you remember this style. It was like those cardigan sweaters, but they were like really long and they had like a tie in the middle.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like Hillary Duff used to wear them a lot, I feel like.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So I bought one of those from like Windsor. It was on sale for like $12 and I was like, okay.
You really make an interesting point actually, because like it's not even been in my thought process of like what to wear with my stuff if I get cold.
Yeah, that's I don't know why I thought about it, but I thought about it and I was like, oh, I should come up with like a game plan for in case I'm cold. And I'm like, it's not an ugly cardigan, so I feel like I could probably repurpose it at some point. The shirt I bought is like a one and done. I'm not gonna be able to ever wear it again. But for the most part, everything else I've been trying to like buy things that I'm like, I could probably wear it again at some point.
Your outfit's motif is a little bit more late 90s, right?
Mine is definitely like early 2000s, but it's more of like the what's the word I want to say, like the bad girl, like ghetto kind of like I don't even know how to explain it. It was like, oh God, I don't even know how to explain it, to be honest with you. It's like without stereotyping, like like Mexican girl style. Like I don't know how to, like it was because I wore this stuff in the 2000s. Like I wore shirts that were like brat, angel, spoiled.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
God. Yeah. So like I feel like it probably was also in the 90s, but I definitely wore it in the 2000s.
So it's really funny that, you bring that up, and not to impede on like your update part real quick, but as long as we're talking about your party and stuff, like I already told you that like all my ensemble came in the mail this week. Mm-hmm. And first of all, I agree, because usually when I get like, not that I've had too many parties that I've gone to that had like a costume theme, but and the ones that I have done, like I try to repurpose those clothes as much as I can.
Right.
Because obviously like you don't want to spend money on something only to wear it once.
Absolutely.
Not at this age, at least. But anyway, So this shirt, I can kind of maybe reason wearing like at the beach or something.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't know if I've said this like before. So it's like the shirt, one of the parts that I got for the shirt was a tube top, which is like the worst thing ever. Like I hate it so much. I hate that idea so much, because we already talked about how we both have problems with our shoulders. We both feel
Yeah, whatever. We're not gonna go down this road, but go on.
We both have feelings about our shoulders, but anyway.
Right.
So I feel like I could like repurpose that, but like the other part of the ensemble is a jean mini skirt.
Oh my actual God, Alex. I did not know that, and I'm so ready to see this outfit.
And I'm just kind of like, I can never wear that skirt again.
Oh yeah, that's a done. It's like my shirt. Like it's like a one and done.
Like for so many reasons, because I'm just kind of like, here's my thing. And obviously everyone, you know, whatever age they are, they can wear whatever they want to wear. You know, up to you, not judging anyone for what they want to do. However, I feel like at the age that I'm at, short skirts and short shorts really just aren't a thing anymore that I should be doing. I feel like you phase that part out of your life, you know? Like for the most part, if I can get away with it, I'm wearing like jeans, like pants.
Yeah.
Like I'm not really wearing shorts too often anymore, unless it's like more for like athletic purposes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I'll wear shorts to work out, but like even in the summer, like I find myself struggling because a lot of the jeans that I used to own are like really short. And I'm like, I feel uncomfortable wearing them now.
Yeah. It's weird how that change happens to you. It sneaks
really
up
weird.
all of a sudden.
It really does, because like before I remember like if my jean shorts were like to mid thigh even, like I was like, oh my God, I'm a grandma, get this off of me. Like it's too long, you know? And now I'm just like, oh my God, I'm a hooker. Like give me longer shorts.
Right. Exactly.
It's insane.
So yeah, like, because it's so funny because you had mentioned last week when we were talking about like, you know, how I was telling you how I had original jewelry from like that time period.
Yeah.
Because like the style that I'm going for is like, I would say like 2006. Like if I were to put a year on it, 2006,
God,
2007.
Specific. Okay.
Well, because I remember like how I dressed like during that time period. Because I feel
that's like 6th grade.
Yeah, so like 6th grade into middle school, I feel like is when I was really coming into my own as far as like I'm styling my own outfits.
For sure.
So like, you know, stuff from that time period, and how you were telling that story about how like your mom was like, oh yeah, like you have that stuff too at the house, and like being really unimpressed about it.
Yeah, and I'm just like, Mom.
So like, you know, I get the whole, you know, ensemble in the mail, and I try it on because obviously I need to know if it fits, because you know it's coming up pretty quickly here.
Right.
And it does, and it's horrifying. It's just so horrifying. Oh my goodness, I can't with that skirt. I really just can't.
Oh my God.
Because like obviously like you have to put like Spanx on underneath it.
I mean, yeah.
Like, you can't mess around with that life, man.
Yeah, anyway, speaking of Spanx underneath it, really, I'm sorry, Alex, this is a little off topic. Like we will get back to like, I'm sure you're making a point about your mom and the whole look and everything. Yeah. But before I forget this, because you know I'm guilty of forgetting things immediately after I like almost say it. Yeah. But do you remember at my bachelorette party when we were getting dressed and I was wearing a white dress, and my sister, and like you can kind of see the outline of like my shorts underneath, and my sister was like, oh my God, like don't wear them. And then I took them off, and then you could see my underwear even worse. And she was like, just don't wear underwear. Yes. And then I ended up like climbing a stripper pole that night with like my whole hooch against it and everything. Like that is just quintessentially like awful.
Right.
Oh my God.
Mistakes, man.
Talk about like you just need to wear like shorts underneath things these days, because you never know what's gonna happen.
Right, exactly. Anyway.
Sorry, go on. Go back to your point.
What a night that was, man. Oh
Lord.
Anyway, so so I put on the whole thing, right? And I show her, because usually like whenever I buy something new, like any like piece of clothing or like shoes, I always show her because she wants to see, you know, that's like what mothers and daughters like to do, right?
Right.
So I show it to her and she looks at it, and it's like what your mom did. It's the most unimpressed thing ever. She's like, yeah,
okay.
She's like, yeah, that's what you used to wear. And it's kind of like, okay. I mean,
that's like, Mom, I want a bigger reaction than that.
Right. Because I'm just like, to me, I'm looking at myself in this outfit, which is like, and I put my hair in the thing too. Like I put my hair exactly how I showed you I would.
Lord in heaven.
Horrendous. It is so awful. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that we'll have the solidarity like at the party of like everyone being that way, but I'm just kind of like, man, that's horrible.
It's gonna be amazing. Like I keep talking to all my like individual friends who are invited, and they keep telling me like little tidbits of like how they're gonna dress, and I feel like nobody is dressing the same, and yet it's all 2000s. Like that is just such a statement in and of itself.
I know there was so much you could have done in that time period.
God.
Well, I'm not really as like worried about, you know, you said that JT, if he's going, would probably like be into it, and Eduardo's whatever.
Yeah.
But like, are the other guys like into it?
Oh yeah, like Brian and like I've already sent Ricky. He was like, send me some shirts, like shirt ideas, and so I already sent him a few things. He's like, perfect. He's gonna wear like a fedora. Like it's gonna be ugly. Brian, I'm sure. I mean, Brian and Danielle are always into dress up things, so he for sure. Chris Taylor, I don't know. I'm assuming he will, because Paulette will, I'm sure. So I don't know. We'll see. But JT actually came over to my house yesterday because I was watching. So kind of going off of my week update. Yeah. I was watching my boss's dogs yesterday. He has 2 pups. They're a husky and a golden retriever mix, and they're both like around like 6 to 8 months. So they're like puppies.
Right.
So JT came over yesterday to like kind of hang out with them a little bit. And he was like telling me, he's just like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going for like the whole Soulja Boy look.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
I'm so ready, dude. I'm so ready for it.
It's so funny. And I was just like, oh, like, have you started ordering your, like, you know, cost your clothes, whatever yet? And he was like, no, dude, that's like a day of thing. And I was like, what? Day of? And he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go to Target, buy like an XXXL t-shirt and like the biggest pants I could find. I'm just like,
he's not wrong.
God. He's not wrong. Like, I was like, you're not wrong, but also I can't do that. Like, I can't do like last minute things like that. Like, I would have so much anxiety. Like, what if I don't find it, you know?
Well, I think it's a little bit different though, especially like for the girl outfits, you know? Like, you have to put a little bit more planning into that, but also that's exactly what he did for Halloween.
Yeah, which, whatever. Right. Yeah, so I mean, it'll be fun. I'm really excited about it. I was also talking to Amanda, and like we were talking about like hairstyle ideas, and like because I showed her I was gonna do like the two like kind of like Liberty buns, but not Liberty buns, and then like butterfly clips in my hair. Yeah. And then I told her she should do. Do you remember Topanga's hairstyle? How she would like it was like half up, but she would like get like rows of the half up and like kind of twist them and put a butterfly clip and like row twist butterfly clip like all across. Yeah. And I was like, oh my god, Amanda, please do that. So I really hope she does. Oh
man, that's gonna be the most outrageous party ever.
Oh my god, it really is. I feel like we've also just like been talking like 15 minutes about my birthday party, like both last week and this week.
It's like in the entire like time that we've had like all this COVID, whatever, this is like the most hopping thing like we're gonna be doing. Like this is the party of the year, dude.
You're right. And also I think every single person who attends is either gonna be fully vaccinated or half vaccinated. Because before today, I knew that like almost everyone's gonna be fully vaccinated. There was gonna be 4 people who weren't, but I found out that I think they're all going, or at least two of the 4, and then if the other 2 go well, like the other 2 will go immediately afterwards, are getting vaccinated tomorrow. So I'm like, that makes me feel even better that like everyone there is gonna be like, you know, as safe as they possibly could be. So, and then my friend Robert might come. So
oh really?
Yeah, like I'm trying to convince him. He's convincing himself through talking to me, because he was also like looking up 2000s fashion. He was like,
oh wow,
because he was like an emo like scene kid back in the day, so he was just like, oh man, I could bring back my emo-ness. Like he was like putting a bandana in his hair, like pulling out the little side hair.
I mean, really, Danielle was the real MVP for thinking of this idea, like suggesting this theme. It was kind of like we all are super here for it, because that was like our heyday.
It was our heyday. Yeah. And I'm gonna also have to start like a collaborative Spotify playlist where everyone can add like music of the day, so that we could have like a nonstop like, you know, playlist going the night.
I'll probably be the least helpful in that regard, because I didn't really start like we talked about this on the music podcast. I didn't start listening to like secular music until like late middle school, really.
I suppose. But I mean, you know, like Avril Lavigne, Britney Spears.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I could think of a couple songs that I put on the playlist for sure.
Anyway, okay, let me finish off my week update really fast because it's ridiculous. The last 2, well, tomorrow I'm getting my hair re-dyed, which I'm excited about because it is really grown out. And then lastly, so my sister, I think I might have mentioned this, but my sister's been trying to sell her house for the past like month or so, and they hadn't gotten any offers. So like she had listed her house at like $660, something like that, and they hadn't gotten any offers, and like a bunch of people went to see it, and they were just like, what the heck? So then they're just like, okay, let's lower the price. And then they lowered it to like 600, and they got like a bunch of people coming in, and then now they're getting like 4 or 5 different offers, and they're all at like 660. And it's just like, you dumb people, like not a single offer at 660, and then they lower it and everyone's like 660. It's like
nice.
But I mean, it works out. And so like today we were taking them to like see houses, and there's 2 houses right now for sale in Villa Verde, like literally like down the street from my parents' house that are
nice.
And so they're like losing their mind, like super anxious, because they're just like, oh my god, we want these houses so bad, but there was like tons of people looking at them. So stay tuned till next week and I'll tell you the update. Hopefully their offer gets accepted in one of them. My parents are both like, please, dear god, move in here. Me too. Like I'm like, that's so much closer than freaking Upland.
I know, that would be so convenient for all the hangouts.
I know, it'd be amazing. So we'll see. Stay tuned. I'll give you an update sooner, but for our listeners next week. Yeah. Okay. How was your week, Alex?
It's been really good. So like, you know, one thing that was really like nice is like you had hit, you know, me and Amanda up on Friday about, you know, taking a day off this week, which was, you know, really welcome. Like I'm, you know, here to do it, whatever. So I already had today off because it's a staff holiday for spring break. Like this is our one day spring break. And then you had mentioned taking that day off to, like do a chill hang, which I'm really, really down for. Awesome. And then, my boss being like, hey, I wanted you to take 2 days off anyway.
Which is, it works out so perfectly for you. It's just like, oh, well, don't mind if I do.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm just like, I had been just telling a friend like recently I needed like a vacation. So I'm just like, yeah, I'll take 3 days off. That sounds like a really great thing to do.
That's a nice work week, just 2 days.
Yeah, so I'm only working tomorrow and Wednesday.
Dang.
Well, obviously this will come out at a different time, but just so you know, in the past I'll have had a 2-day work week and it would have been so great. So like yesterday, which we usually record, just like a little fun fact about like our behind the scenes, is like we always record on Mondays. So yesterday was Easter, and so that was fun. Had like a barbecue with my brother and sister-in-law and my parents, and that was really yummy. We watched Godzilla versus Kong, which was so awesome. Like it's just a really good
monster movie.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I mean, and there was like parts of it that were just like so hilarious and like so up like my family's alley. I'm just kind of like, this is like a really good time. And then also like there's nothing quite like being present on a Sunday and knowing that you have the next day off.
Oh my gosh, amen, sister, amen. That is the best feeling.
You're just coasting through that Sunday like, man, I'm just like, I'm chill, I'm feeling good. So like I wake up this morning, had my alarms turned off and whatever. I mean, I woke up around the time I usually do anyway, but it's like, it's different. It's the freedom of just like laying in bed. I don't need to get up and do anything. I can just like enjoy my time. So I was all leisurely, I watched the shows I needed to catch up on. I played some Animal Crossing, stayed in my pajamas until like 11:30. And then I got boba with one of my youth group leader friends and we walked around Victoria Gardens and did some window shopping.
Amazing.
Like, that's a pretty chill and almost normal day.
Yeah.
All things considered.
Yeah.
It's like almost normal.
It's definitely like such a nice little peek into like, hey, we can almost do what we used to do.
Almost. It's really funny. And like, I feel like everyone has different experiences with this. Obviously, like people with faucets is a little bit harder and whatever, but like, I actually really don't mind wearing a mask for an extended period of time. Like it doesn't really bother me. And I don't know if it's because like the material that my mask is made out of, like it's, fairly breathable. Because like when I see people around me like having problems like wearing it for like a long period of time because they feel like they're being suffocated a little bit, like I'm just like, they're like, yeah, I could wear it for more hours than this.
I mean,
which is a good problem to have, I guess. I'm just like, it doesn't really bother me at all.
I don't necessarily understand people who are like, I can't breathe, because like I work in an office, and so like, and like after work I generally go over to my mom's house. So like from 7:30 in the morning until like 6:30 in the evening when I come home from my mom's house, like I'm wearing a mask the entire time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm okay. Like I'm living, it doesn't really bother me. So I'm just like, these people, like, I mean, I get it. Like some people actually legitimately have like some breathing, like, issues. And like, I get that. But like for the most part, like people are just being babies. I feel like just suck it up. It's not a big deal.
And I really do think it depends on a lot of different factors. Like for my mom who wears glasses all the time, like that's really annoying to have them fog up. So like I can get that.
I know. Spray.
Right. I mean, she's tried a lot of different things, but anyway, she deals with it the best as she can. That's whatever. I mean, but also like I think about so I got a mask from work and like that one, for example, if I were to have to wear that for an extended period of time, I wouldn't be able to do it because that one is thick enough that it does feel like I'm kind of suffocating a little bit.
I mean, I wear 2 masks, so I'm just like, I don't know. For me personally, I'm just like, it's not a big deal. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't bother me. I'm just like, I'd rather feel safe and like protected than opening like my mouth up to the freaking world around me.
Well, anyway, so it's been a pretty good day. I'm looking forward to having some more time off later this week. And
exciting.
Yeah, I feel like really chill, which is really nice.
That's really good. Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's my week, and now we're going to transition into our little movie review. So again, if you haven't seen 10 Things I Hate About You, first of all, it's on Disney Plus. Get it together because this movie's been out since 1999. So you've had your opportunity to watch it.
Seriously.
Probably. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably have had your opportunity to watch it because you're probably old enough to have lived through that time. So
I mean, I hadn't seen it until now, so there's that.
I know, but I would say the same thing to you. I'm just kind of like, dude, where have you been?
Anyway, okay, give a quick synopsis of what the movie is about.
Okay, so I don't know if you know this or if I mentioned to you this before, Drea, but this is one of those movies that's actually based loosely upon a Shakespearean play.
Yes, I did know that.
So it's based kind of off The Taming of the Shrew. So like there is parts of the movie that kind of allude or like correlate to the play, which is kind of cool. So the whole idea of this movie is that there's a couple different like main characters, right? So we got we start out with a couple different people actually. So there's Cameron, who's kind of like the normal kid. He in the movie is an army brat, so like he's just moved there because his family moves around a lot. So he's matched up with some guy who his name is Michael, and the guy shows him around school and like introduces him to like everyone and whatever. And that's like the movie's tool of like laying the groundwork for like how all the movie is going to go and who all the characters are. So there's Michael and Cameron, who are like, you know, two relatively normal guys. Michael is definitely a bit of a geek for sure. And in the tour thing, Cameron sees what he believes to be like the most beautiful girl ever. So her name is Bianca. She's a tool. Anyway, so like he's like immediately like into her and whatever, and then the buddy Michael is just like, don't even think about it, she's like the most popular girl in her class, she's so, you know, out of your league, whatever. And you know, that introduces also like one of the main antagonists in the movie. His name's Joey Donner. He's like the stereotypical like jock jerk, and who's also trying to, you know, get at Bianca. But the whole thing about the movie is that the house rule for this family, because Bianca has a sister, so the house rule for this family is that there's no dating, but then it changes to Bianca can't date until her sister Katerina, or Kat, also dates. And Kat is known around campus for being a shrew, which is what, you know, calls back to The Taming of the Shrew.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael and Cameron hatch this plot to get Cameron to date Bianca by finding a guy who has enough guts to try to date Kat, which brings in Patrick Verona, played by Heath Ledger, who is obviously amazing. Anyway, so it's basically about like their whole plot, because everyone's trying to date Bianca, and then like the two guys trick Joey into like trying to get someone to find, it's all convoluted. So they trick Joey into finding a guy who will date Kat, so they're all trying to date at the same time. Anyway, the point is, watch the movie, we'll get into it a little bit. But the main point is that Patrick is getting paid in the beginning to go out with Kat.
Right.
And that's like, I think all the really big things you need to know. There's a lot of really hilarious characters, you know, just around it. All the supporting characters are actually really funny. Mm-hmm. And I think that Kat and Bianca's dad steals the show like all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like that's kind of the lay of the land. Towards the end, because Bianca's trying to date Joey this whole time, really having no interest in Cameron and manipulating him the whole time. Everyone's manipulating everyone is basically what you need to know. And but she, you know, gets wise to it at a certain point. Is like, oh yeah, Cameron's a good guy, that's the one I should be with. And of course, because that's how it happens, about the money that's being thrown around in order to date her, and shenanigans ensue. You get to know the characters a lot, and it's really funny.
Amazing. Okay, well, I have 4 like categories of things I want to talk about. I have just general questions, general thoughts, things I liked and things I didn't like.
Yeah.
So let's start with my general questions.
Sure, let's get into it.
My first one is, how are kids just so easily getting their hands on alcohol?
Okay, so to set the scene here for, you know, those who don't know, so you're referring to Bogey Lowenstein's party, correct?
Well, that party, but also there's a scene where they meet Verona in the bar, and he's just like drinking a beer and like smoking a cigarette, and these kids are in a bar doing this, and I'm just like, who in the hell, like where?
Yeah, so the whole like lore, I guess you could say, around Patrick, because Patrick is an exchange student kind of. He like came in later, and there's a lot of rumors surrounding him about like him having done jail time and having eaten a live duck and like all this whatever. So like he's like shown as like the really bad boy type. So like when they're trying to enlist him and helping to, you know, help, he gets approached by both Cameron and Joey to help out with the whole we need to get Kat a date thing. Mm-hmm. So like one of the times that Cameron and Michael are trying to like win him over is they find him at a bar and, you know, plead their case and whatever.
Right.
Which I would say is, you know, fake IDs, man.
That is just so unrealistic though. Like, I'm just like, okay, Cameron, and this is another comment I had in my general comments.
Yeah.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a literal infant in this movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like,
I think he's an actual teenager in that movie.
He is a baby. Like, his face is baby. He talks baby. Like, he is baby. So I'm just like, there's no way that anyone in their right mind would let this kid into a bar.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it depends on a lot of different things, right? Like, there are certain like bar/restaurant-ish type of places that will,
That
like,
place is not a family restaurant.
I know it's not, but my point being is that there's like those weird, like, ambiguous places where like you could hang out in some areas as long as you're not going to the bar to try to order drinks.
I suppose. I mean, a lot of my questions, because I feel like we're going to go into this like kind of never ending cycle. A lot of my questions, I know that they don't really have answers, but I just like, these are things I was thinking of as I'm watching this.
Okay, so like a little bit of background here. So, because another thing that she's referring to, I would believe, is the party, the big party that happens in the movie.
Yeah.
Where everyone gets, you know, hammered and stuff. So the whole thing, and which is a really good, because one of my favorite characters in the movie is actually Michael, like the buddy who's kind of setting the stage all the time and kind of almost like acts as like the guide for everyone. So like, one thing's for sure, this school that they go to is humongous. No high school is that big. I don't care if you go to, because I came from a private school, right? So like, that's a pretty small environment. I don't care if you're going to a public school. That is humongous. It's like a university that they're at. But anyway, so like, he's explaining in the beginning like all these different like cliques and whatever, and there's like way too many cliques for a high school campus. Like, it's just like, there's like cowboys, there's barista people, there's the white Rastas.
The white Rastas, which was like problematic.
Yeah, I mean, it was the 90s, so I guess,
Yeah.
you know, there's that too, because it's not made, you know, for this age. But anyway, so like, one of the social groups that he just had gotten ousted from himself was the future MBAs. And I really, like, one of my favorite like jokes, like in the beginning of the movie, because there's a lot of really good jokes in that movie, is, so there is like a minor character, his name's Bogey Lowenstein, and he's like the new head of the future MBA group. So MBA meaning like future
Masters of Business Administration.
Yeah, so like, you know, really Ivy League sort of deal. But anyway, he had just like kind of ousted Michael from the social group by spreading a rumor that Michael had bought his iZods at an outlet mall. And I'm just like, that is so funny to me, just because of the whole like, you bought it at an outlet mall, how could you?
Oh my god,
you didn't pay full price for that, how could you? It's so hilarious to me. But anyway, so part of like the running theme is like Michael trying to get like a small revenge against this guy for, you know, ousting him from the group. So like, one of the things that Michael and Cameron decide to do is like, oh, we're gonna throw a party so we can get Bianca out, so, you know, Cameron can like woo her. So the future MBA group like already had like some like flyer to go to Bowie Lowenstein's for like wine and cheese or something stupid like that. It was brandy.
Yeah.
Anyway, and like they put stuff over it and like to make it like an actual like kegger sort of deal. Just, like, tossed all these flyers everywhere, so the whole school is basically invited. And then like it goes to like later, after like a bunch of other things happen and they're setting at the party, so like it's all of like the future MBA kids like with the cheese and drinking brandy and whatever. And then all of a sudden like a huge mob of kids like is like running over like the lawn, this like huge house too, and everyone has kegs, and like it turns into like this huge rager. It's just like not even within the realm of something that can happen.
Yeah.
The realm of something. So yeah, like in that sense, absolutely. There's no way so many high school kids could get that much alcohol.
There's no way. That's why I was just like, when I saw all these scenes, I was just like, where in the hell are these kids getting the alcohol? But anyway, to move off of that topic, my next question is, how the heck is the guidance counselor not fired yet?
Okay, so yeah, so, you know, the background on that, so Allison Janney plays the counselor, the school counselor, and she's hilarious. She's only very briefly shown, which is like a tragedy because she's so funny. So the whole thing, really with everyone at this school, is that they're getting away with murder, basically. Like, the teachers are like talking mad smack to the students and like vice versa, and like all the things that are said in class to each other, it's like super like, you could not get away with this in a school. There's no way. Faculty, staff would be getting fired, the kids would be like getting expelled, like all this whatever, like it's not happening. Anyway, so in the beginning of the movie,
she's like writing erotic fan fiction, basically.
Well, yeah, Kat gets sent to the guidance counselor's office because the teacher is sick of her. And yeah, so you see her, the guidance counselor, in her office, and she's like talking out loud to herself while writing her erotic novel. And like the thing is that it's not even really a secret because Kat like knows about it and makes a suggestion on like what she should write in her book.
Yeah, which is like there's no
a phrasing suggestion. I'm just like, yeah, it's crazy. It is absolutely insane.
There's no way. That would be like such no. Anyway. And then lastly, okay, am I like the only one who was taken aback like halfway through the movie when Kat all of a sudden like has that friend who was like never referenced prior?
That's not true. The friend was there in the very beginning.
Was she? I was like did not catch that because I was just like, okay, Kat's just this loner, and then all of a sudden she has this friend.
No, she has one friend named Mandela, and she was there she was there in the beginning, not really mentioned in the middle, but then came towards the end again. But yeah, she was there the whole time.
All right, well maybe I just didn't pick up on it. But those are my general questions. I have a few general comments that I'll move into. So first things first, I somehow think that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character is unrealistic because he's like really oddly confident, but like also like really nerdy.
Do you really feel like he was that nerdy? I feel like he was just more so a normal kid.
I feel like, okay, well, not necessarily, maybe nerdy's not the right word, but like definitely not a cool kid. Yeah. And I feel like how is a not cool kid gonna be like hanging with Bianca, who is like desired by every single person in the school, gonna be so smooth? Because like, especially even at the end, like when he's realizing that she's like playing him like a fiddle, and he's just like, you don't have to be a jerk, like you're so self-centered, you're so this, like I was like, there's no way that like any kid who's like not, like you have to have a certain level of confidence to call out a girl of that status, in high school.
Oh, for sure. I can definitely agree with you on that whole thing. Like, I don't know like what clique he would really be a part of in like this whole school, because I think that he's really just someone without a clique there. I mean, although he hangs out with Michael.
I mean, he hangs out with Michael, who's kind of nerdy, so I'm just like...
Well, I think that just in general, all of the characters, all of the kid characters have like loads of confidence. Because like, you think about Michael, who's at that party and is approaching like a ton of girls. Like,
True.
Trying to,
I guess like, I can't imagine that existing in like the high school setting that I went to, but like maybe it exists in some other place. I guess also if you're an army brat, maybe you do have to have a level of confidence, otherwise you'll never make friends when you move around.
Right. And that's a really good point, actually. And also, although it's a very loose, although it's very loosely based on Taming the Shrew, like it probably has to like, the characters have to have close to the same motivation, I'd feel.
Right. Anyway.
Because he wants to date Bianca, which is more trouble than I think is worth.
Amen. But okay, moving on to more like the whole like Bianca Kat family dynamic. I think the dad is like so right in all of the situations. And also like quick shout out to Paolo from Princess Diaries.
Yeah, for playing the dad. He's so hilarious. He's the most quotable character in that movie.
Yeah, like I mean, okay, so like basically like Alex is saying in the synopsis, like he tells the girl, so he's like an OBGYN, right?
Yeah, he's an obstetrician, yes.
He's an obstetrician. So like he is like living in perpetuating fear that like his daughters are gonna get like impregnated at a young age and then like ruin their lives. And so he's constantly like telling them straight up like today I delivered a baby from a 15-year-old. You know what she said? I should have listened to my dad. And it's just so funny. Like he's so right though. It's just like, oh my God, like he's literally just telling them things that like are gonna benefit them, like don't like go to prom because, or like things that happen at prom aren't just like kissing, it's like more than kissing. And it's like, like all those things. I feel like he's so right. Like he's just been a good dad.
Right. Well, I mean, he's being very extreme for sure, but he is right. I mean, to a certain extent, yes. So like his best moments, I feel like in the movie. So there's one, which is right after what you were mentioning about delivering that girl. And it's when he first comes up with the rule that, oh, I'm going to change it from you can't date until you graduate to you can't
until
date until Kat
dates.
dates.
Yeah.
And then to which Bianca's like, well, she's a mutant. What if she never dates?
Uh-huh.
And then he says, well, I'll get to sleep at night. The deep slumber of a father whose daughters are not out getting impregnated.
Oh my gosh, I know.
And he says it like so quippy. I'm just kind of like, oh, that's so good. And
yeah,
then, like,
he's funny.
Later, because basically the entire rule then after is whatever Kat gets to do, Bianca gets to do. So Kat isn't planning necessarily going to this whole party thing that happens later, even though Patrick's planning on taking her out to it. And Bianca and her friend like try to sneak out to like go to the party, get stopped by the dad and whatever. And of course, like he's freaking out about this party.
Mm-hmm.
And the friend says to him, Mr. Stratford, it's just a party. And then he replies back, and hell is just a sauna.
What?
He's, well, you know.
Oh, and hell is just a sauna.
Yeah.
You had cut out a little bit, so I was like, what did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Hell is just a sauna. And then makes her, before she goes to the party, because he gets defeated when
Kat's going.
Kat like agrees to go, which also he mentions like no animal sacrifices, which is really funny as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like before Bianca is able to go, he makes her put on a pregnancy belly.
Yeah.
Like, you need to know like the full weight of your decisions. So walk around the living room for a little while with his pregnancy belly on, and Patrick totally sees it. He's like, who knocked up your sister?
So funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's good stuff. Okay, so my next thing, this is more of just like going back to the whole like unrealistic, but like, so when they go to the party at what's his face's house, there's like a moment when Kat is just like, you know what, screw this, like I'm so over it, and she starts drinking, and so like she starts acting drunk, and she's like dancing on the tables and like all this stuff, and she's like acting really thrashed, right? And so like there's a point where she hits her head and she like falls, and like Patrick catches her, and he's like trying to take care of her. And if she were like that drunk, there's no way, like she was not acting correct drunk if she was that drunk, because like she'd be slurring her words, she'd not be able to keep her eyes open or her head up, and like she was talking 100% like coherently and was able to like walk, you know. And it's just like, and then she like throws up, and then immediately afterwards they're like totally normal in the car. I'm like, girl, there's no way that would happen. Like you would be dying for like hours afterwards.
Yeah, because like the whole thing is like supposedly she's drunk, like even like when like he takes her home. Really, that whole thing is just kind of like you feel so bad for Patrick.
Yeah,
because you really find out at that party that he's not at all the guy that everyone thinks that he is. Like he's actually really and truly a good guy. Like he's trying to keep her from drinking too much. Like, hey, you need to slow down, you know, I want you to be safe and all this whatever, you know, make that she doesn't have a concussion. We're worried about her. And then like as he's trying to take care of her, like he brings her outside, sits her down, tries to take care of her. The camera's like, we need to talk. And then Patrick's like, I'm a little bit busy right now. And he's like, no, now.
Yeah, it's like, Cameron, back up. Like if I were like Patrick in that moment, I would do like one of these, like push him off, you know?
Yeah. I mean, because like Patrick didn't deserve anything that was like happening right then. But anyway,
yeah, definitely.
Like the one of the most ridiculous parts of that, because obviously like I agree with you, like that's not how I've witnessed a drunk person being ever. Like that's just not how it is. Like there would have been slurring and all this whatever. But like, you know, the whole thing is like she tries to make a move on him, like when she's drunk. Drops her off. Yeah, he drops her off at her house, and he you know doesn't do it. He doesn't do anything because like she's drunk. He does the good thing, the good guy thing to do, obviously. And she gets so unreasonably mad about it afterwards. Like totally like is super mean to him and like avoids him and aims soccer balls at him during soccer practice. And
I mean, it kind of reminds me of that episode of Friends when Rachel is trying to come on to Ross when her dad's in the hospital for having a heart attack, and he's just like, no, I feel like I'm taking advantage of you, let's not sleep together. And then the next day she's like pissed because she's just like, when like I just wanted to feel comforted and like you did it. He's like, I was doing the right thing. I feel like it's the same thing where like from the guy's perspective he's doing the right thing, but for the girl's perspective she's just like just let me make my own decisions. Like why are you making me feel worse when I'm already down, you know? Like I don't know, it's one of those like dumb situations.
Well, the plot whole thing, at least for this movie, is concerned because like a little bit later, like they show Patrick, Michael, and Karen talking about like, what did you do to make her so mad? Whatever. And Patrick makes the comment that she would have been too drunk to remember anyway, but clearly not because she's so mad.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, it's whatever. Anyway.
Obviously, yes, I do agree with you that she wasn't really acting correctly.
She wasn't acting correctly drunk. Absolutely. Okay. Anyways. And I saw the ending coming from a mile away. Like literally like from the start of the movie, I could already be like, oh, they're going to actually fall in love. She's going to find out he was getting paid.
Of course.
And it's going to be this whole thing. So like, of course, when it was happening, I was like, yep. Okay. Yeah. So it was just like, it was like not like a exciting climax. It was more of a like, okay, we've gotten there now. But I mean, still cute. Like I still thought it was cute. I think mainly it was the whole getting to know Patrick's character. That was like the most appealing for like the whole trope. But also like, okay, that the flashing scene when she's sneaking him out of detention, like just what?
Let's just talk about that scene from beginning to end, because I think there's a lot of funny moments, because like how I brought up, like a lot of the minor characters in this movie are really funny actually.
Okay.
So the reason that we are brought to detention that day is because in order to make up with Kat, Patrick is like, well, I'm going to do something that's comparatively as embarrassing as what happened to her. So while she's at practice for soccer, like he takes control of the sound system for the stadium, starts playing a song and like sings to her,
right,
and like gets chased around by security and whatever, and it's really cute. I really like that scene. It's a good scene. So that lands him in detention. So I'm not sure, like, I mean, it was more funny to me because it didn't like really impact me more until I was older and really fully understood it. So like there was a couple different people in detention, and the teacher who's supervising it is actually Kat's soccer coach. So like one of the opening things in like that part of the scene is that he starts interrogating the student that looks like nervous. And he ends up getting it out of the student that the student has some pot on him. So he confiscates the pot, right? And he walks, towards the front of the classroom after, taking that. And he stops as he looks down and sees like on a desk of another student a bag of Cheetos. Because like when he said like that he was taking the pot, he's like, I'm confiscating this. And then he walks and he sees the Cheetos and he's like, he grabs it real slow. He's like, and this too. And it's like, it really did not occur to me at all until like the past couple of years that he was planning on smoking it himself and he was going to have the munchies.
Yeah, I got that right away.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't though. Like it entered my spirit. When I first watched it, I think it was like in middle school or something. Like I recorded it when it was playing on MTV or something. So I'm just like, at that point in time, I wasn't thinking that. So like that's already like really funny background. And then she comes in, with the intention of breaking Patrick out of detention. So she goes up to, her coach and she's like, hey, like I want to talk about this upcoming game that we have and like how we're going to like strategize to win, whatever. And so she's trying to distract him enough to let Patrick sneak out a window that's like behind where they're at. So like there's no way for him to really sneak out. He should have just snuck out through the door, really.
Yeah, he should.
All that aside. So the whole idea is she's telling him, the coach, like, oh, we can get them misdirection. So she's like doing a really bad job at explaining how misdirection is going to apply in this whole soccer scenario. And her last like Hail Mary pass to like get this to work is she ends up like
flashing him,
saying, oh, we'll misdirect them by doing this, and then she flashes her teacher.
And then he straight up is like just staring at her breasts. Like that is just so unreal. Like that teacher would be under so much heat with all the kids in the class watching, like with her doing it. Like there's no way. If
she would have been expelled. What are you talking about? Well,
I mean,
like,
she would have been expelled, but if a teacher legitimately just like stared and like looked, like instead of being like, oh my God, like reporting it, like they would be fired.
Yeah. I mean, the whole scene was problematic for sure. Yeah. That's the context behind it.
That whole scene, I was like, what? Anyways, this is a quick comment, but Bianca's prom dress was heinous. So hideous, like the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
So what she's describing is what's actually come back into vogue, like towards the end of when we were college.
Yeah.
And I think it's horrendous, really.
It's so ugly. It's hideous.
So the whole idea of this prom dress, it's like a two-piece dress. So like it's just like the top part. So like almost like a
shirt, like a t-shirt almost.
Yeah.
And it's like satin. It's satin material.
Yeah. A satin, like really
pink
high cut shirt. And then a tulle skirt. It was so awful. Horrible.
It is awful. Like I was like, that is the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, when I started seeing that like come back in, because like when I'd have to like shop for like sorority like recruitment stuff and whatever, I usually like go to Windsor and whatever, because like that has like a lot of dresses and stuff.
Right.
Or like for getting dressed for sorority formal or whatever. And then I'd see those dresses there. I'm just like, man, it's the dresses from 10 Things I Hate About You. How can this happen? How can we come here so fast?
Awful.
I don't know who that would look good on. anyone.
Nobody. The answer, she's cute and it didn't look good on her. So the answer is nobody. Okay. Well, those are all my general thoughts. Let's move into things I liked. So one of the things I really liked was Kat's unwillingness to like give into social norms. Like, so this whole movie, Kat is kind of playing this character of like, I don't care what people think of me. I'm going to stand up for what I believe in. Like, I'm opinionated on everything, and everyone like is giving her so much flack for it, which I think is so dumb. Like, that's like on the flip side, something I don't like. Like, I don't like how all the characters are like, the reason that everyone didn't like Kat was because she was opinionated. And it's just like, why is that a bad thing? Like, that's good. And especially like the teacher always gave her so much crap for like, oh, like Kat has an opinion on everything. Like, oh, here we go. Like when she reads her poem at the end, like, I'm just like, what the hell? Like, that is so messed up that like the teacher especially would be like not encouraging his students to have like, you know, critical thinking.
Right. I mean,
yeah, that was crazy.
Because like, well, all the characters really were like caricatures of what's normal. Like, it was all super like dramatic compared to like what would actually happen.
I mean, right. And like also it was made in the 90s. So like maybe there wasn't a different idea of how like, you know, girls should carry themselves. But I like how ultimately it was like the message of it was like kind of this progression of girl power, because even Bianca, like in the whole beginning of the movie, like she's just so like so annoying, such a tool, such a brat, and as the movie progresses, it's just kind of like she evolves into this more like self-aware like kind person who's like, you know, like, okay, I don't need validation from others, like I have validation from within, like this is this. Like I feel like that whole message was really cute and I really got behind it. And now I want to shift focus on Patrick Verona. Like so like the way that he was portrayed in the beginning, like he seemed like such a cool kid, and I can tell you right now that if like him prior to getting to know him as being like, oh, what a nice guy, but like him when everyone thought he was crazy, I would have had a huge crush on him in high school.
For sure.
Like I was like, oh my god, what a heartthrob. Which is another like reason why I was just like, wait, I don't get it. Like there's no way that no girls at the school like don't see him and they're just like, oh, what a hot heartthrob, you know, like there has to be like some sector of girls.
And that's yeah, I mean there's that, I guess, but I think that's probably what like all the insane rumors about him, like what those are all about, to like kind of temper the fact that just in general, because he's Heath Ledger, he just is a heartthrob.
Yeah,
like he just is. You can't, you know, disguise that. It just is what it is. So like they had to like try to put all those like really crazy rumors in there, because I think that like, you know, in like this particular school in general, it was like really all about, it was super cliquey and all about being popular. So like I'm not sure that it was like really that cool yet to like the bad boy necessarily.
Grease, like in the 50s. Okay,
I don't know what to say to you. It's not going to progress the plot for him to have groupies.
I mean, you're right. I'm just saying, like, I'm just giving you my thoughts here. Yeah. But anyway, I like that you brought up the point that, you know, Patrick Verona is played by Heath Ledger, because it was so painful the entire movie to like watch it and like just know about his untimely death. And it's just like it's just one of those movies. Like, I feel like obviously, you know, there's tons of movies that you see and like a character in it or like an actor, you know, it has passed. But for some reason, there's certain actors that for me, it's just like, it's so painful to watch their movies. Like Heath Ledger being one of them, definitely like Chadwick Boseman being another one. Yeah. Like, I just feel like, I guess like actors who had untimely deaths are the ones that are painful for me to watch.
Well, and I think at least, you know, for me personally, because I agree with both those assessments, that for both those actors, it really does hurt, especially since they were so young. Yeah. But then also like, you really and truly believe, because obviously for Heath Ledger, he had a lot of problems with like drug abuse and stuff, but it sounded like, you know, more of a depression sort of thing, and not that he's just flying off the handle sort of thing. Yeah. Because I think really and truly, his problems aside, he was a good guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it wasn't like he was like a maniac, you know. Well, okay, so on the flip side, so like Robert Downey Jr., for example, before he like you know figured out his life, like he was a problematic like actor, you know, like he was involved heavily with drinking drugs, doing illicit activities. And I feel like if he were to have passed during that phase, it would have been like sad, obviously, but it's more like you see it coming, you know?
Yeah.
But like someone who's kind of like behind closed doors abusing drugs because like they're depressed or they have these issues or and like you just find out all of a sudden, like without like having build up, it's like I feel like that's what's so difficult to like internalize, you know?
Right. And then obviously Chadwick Boseman, because like he just had cancer, so like that's even like a different realm of sad, because like it's not like he did anything
to do it,
cause it. Yeah, he didn't do really anything to cause it, and like he also seemed just like a good guy.
Yeah,
so, like,
and
in that situation is kind of like, man, that.
And on top of that, it's like he had it for years and was like working through it with nobody knowing. Like that one makes it feel even worse because it's just like, oh my God. And I know that like there was certain actors, like the movie he did right like just before he passed, what was it called? It was like that like war movie, you know what I'm talking about?
A war movie?
Yeah, it's like this movie about like the Vietnam War or something. It's called like,
I don't know.
Anyways, I forget what it's called, but there was another actor on it and I forget who it was, but they like did an interview after he passed and he like was so remorseful because he was just like, I literally like was making fun of Chadwick Boseman because like I thought he was such a diva, because we would do a scene and then he would go back to his trailer and have like all these like masseuses and all these different like people there, like, you know, like giving him rubs and like doing all these different things. And he was just like, wow, like this guy's such a diva. But it was all because he was just trying to like battle his cancer, you know? And it's just like, oh my God, like imagine like that feeling of like, you know, like I was like putting down someone for the fact that they're like battling through something. Like, oh, that's just it hit me hard. Like when I was reading that interview, I was like, oh my God. Anyway, we've taken a tangent. But okay, let's get back to it. So Verona's character, super heartthrob. Guys are not that smooth in high school, let me just say, like no way, no how, like because this guy was like making me swoon, and there's no way that like any high school kid could do that
for sure.
So that's just that. And then, okay, so then let's move off of Patrick for a moment. I like the part at the end when Kat finds out that Patrick was being paid to date her. And like, he's just like, no, it wasn't about that. Like, I was like, you know, I was doing it because I liked you and da-da-da. And she was like, screw you, you know? And then so she's about to leave and he like grabs her and like kisses her. And instead of like, I feel like that's such a trope where like there's a fight. Like, let's use The Notebook, for example. You know, like the scene in The Notebook where they're like Noah and what's her face? Allie? Noah and Allie are fighting and it's like in the rain. They're getting off the little like sailboat or whatever. And she's like walking away and she's like, why didn't you write me? He's like, I wrote you every day. And they're like in this heated fight and it like culminates with him like grabbing her and they start making out and then they move into the house and they're just like this huge sex scene, you know? And I feel like that's just such a trope in like movies where there's a big fight and it's like all like resolved from like the guy like grabbing the girl aggressively and like kissing her. And in this movie, like when that happens, he grabs her and kisses her and she's just like, ah, and she just like walks away, like storms out. And I was just like, you go, girl. I was like,
you know,
heck yes.
It's funny that you make that comparison because to me, those aren't the same things at all.
Really? Okay, why would you say not?
So to me, or at least how I've always interpreted, because obviously there's the whole Notebook thing and that is what it is. Because yes, there is definitely a trope of it'll make everything better after the fighting if we just make out now.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Blah. But for, I think that, you know, scene in particular, it more felt like he was just so desperately trying to be like, don't go. Like, I love you, don't go.
I mean, is that not what Noah was trying to do in The Notebook? Like, she was leaving to get married.
I don't know. I don't really feel like the same motivation necessarily applies. But yes, in a way. I just don't think it's the same thing.
You're just like, no, don't bring The Notebook into this.
Well, give me a second because I need to like really just like, because to me, I think that The Notebook was a little bit more like sexual tension that had been building up for them like for years.
I guess. I mean, yeah, I can get on board with that, where like The Notebook was more of like a longer drawn out, you know, like whatever. But I feel like in the moment, like, I mean, even if we don't use The Notebook, like I just feel like that trope of like make out, it'll make it all better. Like I just feel like that's stupid because it's stupid. Yeah. So like when she was just like no and like walked away, like I was like, yeah, like you go cat, you know, like I was just pumped up by it. So that was like one thing that I was I was just like girl power. And then also like the scene with Bianca and Joey when she like beats him up.
Yeah,
it's a good scene. And then she's just like, come on, Cameron. Like I like it. Like I just feel like it was all cheesy. Like it was all cheesy, but at the same time I was like, it's good cheesy. Like it's like cute cheesy.
Well, it's a moment that needed to happen mostly for, it was like what epitomized all of her like character development up to that point, because like in the beginning of the movie she was like the most shallow person ever, cared only about being popular, cared only about dating the popular guy, and then by the end of the movie she's finally like being like, well, popularity isn't everything, right? I want to be with someone who actually likes me for me, and then for once just being a sister to her sister.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like the whole thing, like they're fighting basically the whole movie until Kat tells her like, the reason I don't want you getting mixed up with Joey is because I know personally from what he's done to me that he's a bad guy.
Right.
And she had to get past, you know, like Bianca had to get past it because she's like, you could have just told me so I didn't make your own mistakes or whatever, which is I feel like unfair.
That's like, okay, that's like all good and fine, but like I don't know, and this obviously you probably can't relate necessarily because you don't have a sister,
right?
But like if I found out that like my sister was dating, okay, hold on because I already know that like my sister's gonna be like, but if I was coherent and I wasn't intoxicated and I find out that my sister dated some guy that I'm going after, I would be so beside myself and like, no thank you, I'm done with that like avenue I was going down. Like I don't want my sister sloppy seconds, you know?
Yes. Well, at that point, I think in the movie though, what's her face Bianca didn't even want Joey anymore. Like she's just more mad to be mad.
I guess so. I guess that's another fair point. But anyway, okay, my last point of things I liked. So the ending, well, it wasn't the ending scene, but like the scene at the end when Kat reads her poem in class, and it's like about Patrick, and is like basically saying like how she's angry that she isn't mad at him, and she's angry that he's not there, and like she's sad that, you know, like he's gone, and she, like it makes her even more like upset that like she feels this way about him. Like this, it's just all obviously way more like beautiful than I'm saying it now, but like it was so cute, and she even like starts like choking up and like almost crying through it, and like, and then it turns to like Heath Ledger and he's like kind of tearing up, and I know I was even like, oh my god, like I didn't expect to get emotional at it. Like I was like, it's so beautiful. Like that whole scene, so cute.
I mean, she plays it so well, and that he, in response to what she is saying, plays it so well.
Yeah, because that was good acting.
I think that, you know, a lot of women, I can't say all because obviously I can't speak for everyone, but like deep down, you want a guy who will feel something in response to what you're feeling, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I think if we are all putting ourselves in Kat's situation where we're like pouring out our heart, you want to see that it affects him somehow. That, you know, he's getting emotional too because he's just like, I love you too.
Agreed.
Which, you know, because this is a movie that has a happy ending. That's the only reason why it works out perfectly that way. But just kind of like, ugh, such a beautiful moment.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. And I feel like there's been few times in like movies / TV shows where there's kind of a scene where they're like expressing love for each other. Because okay, so I have a problem with like expressing like emotions or whatever, shocker. And so there's only a few times in like certain movies, certain like TV shows where there's a scene where they're like expressing some sort of like affection for each other, and I like legitimately I'm like, oh my god, like I'm gonna start crying. And I was surprised that this was like one of them. Like I was like, oh, like I didn't think that this movie was gonna get deep, but it was so cute. Like the little poem was so cute. So I really like that. Like I feel like it was a really nice way to kind of like cap off the movie. And now, so like now I just have 2 points of things that like I didn't necessarily like. One of them I actually had already mentioned earlier. It was just that like, what the hell is up with the teacher? Like I can't believe that he was like discouraging Kat from having an opinion, and like he was always like saying little backhanded comments like the entire time. Like that was just ugh. But anyways, I mentioned that already. So the other one was like every time the like Kat questioned authority or like the patriarchy or like whatever, whenever she was like questioning anything that was being like forced upon her, everyone was always like blaming it on like menstruation. And I just had such an issue with that. Like I was like, oh, like it's so annoying. Like it was like, well, make sure she takes her Midol, or just like, just because you're PMSing doesn't mean you can do this. It's just like, oh my god, like it's just such a cop-out thing to say about women. And it's just, oh, it was getting under my skin. I was like, enough.
I don't disagree with that. It was annoying.
Yeah, sure. It was super annoying. But those are basically the only two things that like I was really annoyed with. Like other than, you know, obviously like Bianca in the beginning is annoying, but like you grow to like her at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall I feel like I enjoyed the movie. It was fun and it was pleasantly surprising to see like the emotional attachment I had to the characters at the end.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that, because I kind of like skimmed through the movie like when I got home and before, like when I was making my own notes on it, whatever. Because I've seen the movie a number of times. So like I'm pretty familiar with it, whatever. And I obviously suggested it to you because I love this movie. It's a great movie. It's really funny. And a lot of the characters are really likable. But like, you know, watching it through a little bit again today, I'm just kind of like, everyone's letting each other, I feel, off the hook a little bit too easy. So like when Cameron is getting angry at Bianca in the car after the party about like, you know, manipulating him and like whatever, and just being full of herself in general, it's just like bravo to you, Cameron, for you know, just sticking up for yourself that way, because you're not wrong.
Right.
But also she does a really quick flip there and just kind of like, yeah, well, you know, I agree with you actually, and I'm going to be interested in you now. And he's all of a sudden forgives her.
Yes.
And I'm just kind of like, I love a happy ending, so I'll let that slide. But I'm just kind of like, I think that there should have been a little bit more work there. I feel like, you know, you don't need to let it go instantaneously. I don't advocate for you holding a grudge, but I think, you know, it was a little bit too quick for me. And then also, obviously, I love Patrick and Kat together. They're the best. They're the best couple in the movie.
Agreed.
But if I were to find out that someone I was dating was paid to date me, I would think, because like
oh God.
Because obviously, like, she walks out on him, right? Which is good. Yes. You know, I agree with that assessment of that's how that should have gone. However, I think that he would have tried to make it up to her at a different point, probably afterwards. But she was the one who extended the olive branch at the end, you know, with the really awesome poem, and that's great. But like, he really didn't have to do anything because she already opened the door. Like, hey, like, if you're into this, let's do this.
Well, that's debatable because she did the poem, but then immediately after the poem, she like runs out to her car, and in her front seat, there's like the fender. And so like, who's to say that he didn't know, like, you know, he obviously put that there earlier. So like, was he extending the olive branch before, not knowing that she was going to say the poem to him?
Here's my rebuttal, is that's not immediately afterwards. Because like, if you look, everyone's leaving for the day.
Unless that was the last class.
I think that he was already planning something, which is what I was saying earlier, that like, I imagine he would have done something, but I think that it helps certainly for her to have been like, hey, I'm open to reconciliation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I am more like whatever about it, because like I, as a person, am like very forward with things that I want, things I want to say. Like, I'm a very direct person. So like, whenever I want anything to happen, like, I'm not going to wait around for like my significant other to do it. I'm just be like, I'm going to do this so that I get the result that I want. You know what I mean? So like, for me, it just seemed like, I didn't even think about that. Like, I didn't even think about like who offered the olive branch to who and like who should have done it first. Cause I was just like, oh yeah, like I would have probably done the same thing.
Well, here's one thing that, you know, even though I just made that comment, one thing I do really like that I feel like when I'm guilty of not doing this, and then just should happen more in general, like it's one of my favorite things to like read in books and like see in movies and whatever, is when a character or person recognizes that there's no reason to waste time in leaving things unsaid.
Yeah.
Because she could have just been quietly wanting him to reconcile with her and whatever, and he could have just been like, well, she's too mad, so I should probably just leave her alone. So like, you know, the whole thing of her like saying something like, I know that you did like this horrible wrong to me, but I still love you. You know, I really appreciate that honesty and like, hey, I'm not gonna let this get in the way of like my potential happiness. I'm just gonna leave it, like say what I need to say.
Yeah.
Even at the risk to myself.
Yeah.
Because I know that I'm guilty of not doing that.
Well, I feel like it's like a challenging thing, because like I feel like I'm very like the way that I am now, because I had, you know, with my ex-boyfriend, like I went through experiences where like I probably could have like avoided a lot of like heartbreak and whatever if I had just been more like direct with like how I was feeling, what I wanted, So I feel like the reason I am this way now is because I've had that experience where you fortunately have not had that experience. So maybe you could just proactively start doing it instead of like learning the hard way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, obviously we've all had our different circumstances in life that teach us different things. So I think that at this point in my life, I'm a lot more transparent than I ever been as far as like expectations and feelings. But I'm just kind of like, I feel like the most annoying part of, you know, books and like movies and TV shows now, which is a vehicle for, you know, getting events to happen, obviously. But I'm just kind of like, you could just say what you're really feeling.
Right.
Instead of just messing around, wasting all this time.
Agreed.
Anyway, it's a great movie. Watch it. It's on Disney Plus.
It's on Disney Plus. I do recommend it. It gets Alex and Dre's stamp of approval. So the next time we do a movie review, it'll be my turn to choose a movie. Dear. But I'll choose one that I think that you'll like this time, because obviously you hated my last choice. But well,
here's the thing. I was a good sport about watching it.
Yeah, you were. I think I actually had a movie in mind recently that I was like, oh, I should make Alex watch it. Oh, I think I was gonna do a Hocus Pocus.
Oh yeah, I think that you were, because I mentioned the other day to you and Amanda that I'd never seen it.
Which is the most like betrayed I've ever felt in our whole friendship, Alex.
You know what? I feel like that's one of those situations, because it's a Disney movie, right?
Yeah.
And it was is it a Disney Channel movie?
No, I don't think so. I definitely didn't watch it on Disney Channel.
Did it come out in a theater?
I think it did. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't actually know. Like, I can look it up right now. But what was the point you're making?
Well, the point being is that, like, because I know for sure that it played on Disney Channel occasionally, like around whatever holiday it was concerning.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure it did.
And
go ahead.
Because I don't recall it when it was in theater, but I think
it says here that it did come out in theater.
Okay, cool. Well, that's not something that would have appealed to my brothers, I think, which is probably why I didn't watch it.
That's fair. I mean, it's obviously different growing up with boys, but I mean, come on, Alex, you've lived 27 years of life. You could have watched this glorious holiday movie.
Yeah, because I think, it was the first thing, probably not appealing to my brothers at all. And then also I didn't have cable for the longest time, so I didn't really see it, on Disney Channel. Mm-hmm. And then at that point you just like get old enough where just kind of like, well, what do I care?
You should care a lot. I watched Hocus Pocus literally like 4 times every single Halloween season.
I will say that one of the negative qualities of my personality is that if people get really too hyped over something,
I know you won't watch it.
I won't watch it.
It is like literally one of your most infuriating qualities that like
I know it's the worst.
Up at night.
I mean, hey, I'm watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, like after very reluctantly trying not to.
Yeah. Well, like I think like the most relevant one actually recently, and I don't think that it's something that you've watched, at least you haven't mentioned it, like when everyone and their brother was going insane about The Witcher on Netflix.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen it.
I still haven't. Everyone was going crazy. It was really ridiculous. And like my brother was just giving me a hassle about it yesterday because I haven't seen it. I'm just kind of like, well, everyone bandwagoned on it, so I didn't want to watch it anymore.
Tell him you're busy watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine anyways. Anyway, yeah. Okay, let's wrap up the podcast. We're going.
Well, I mean, that was basically it. So yeah, I guess I'm going to be watching Hocus Pocus for whenever we do this segment again. And I hope that you watch 10 Things I Hate About You and also love it because I love it, but also keep in mind it was made in the 90s, so not everything transfers over well. If you are, if you are going to feel a certain way about it.
Right.
You take it for what it is, I suppose.
Exactly. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We will be back in your feeds next week. Toodles.
Bye.